the Agile brand.
Hey there, it's your pal, Bonnie Habian, and welcome to the Worth Knowing podcast. If you like a real-life story that features grit, grace, and a whole lot of gumption, then you're in the right place. Get ready to hear from some courageous women who talk about how pivotal, teachable, aha moments have reshaped their confidence and delivered opportunities they never imagined. It didn't happen by chance, of course. They figured out new, sometimes uncomfortable ways to put themselves out there in a way that shouts, they get it. You'll hear intimate stories with actionable takeaways and some very secret sauce. Because everyone has an important story worth knowing. And you know what? The world needs it, and you deserve it. Hello there, friends. We are here today with someone who is just an absolute powerhouse. Sometimes they call her the Diva of Disaster. We're going to get into that a little bit as we continue to go on. And that's really somewhat of an interesting story. But Maryann Bruce is here with us today. And she's a very accomplished executive. She is a crisis management expert and a woman who's faced more than her share of life's curveballs. But it wasn't until she confronted her own mortality that she discovered what truly matters most and the life shifts that can really provide that true purpose. So in this episode, Maryann opens up about the pivotal moments that forced her to reevaluate everything she thought she knew about achievement, identity, and living with purpose. And we're going to explore some of that, really diving into the 5 most meaningful life shifts that Maryann believes every driven woman should consider after a wake-up call. So here's a really quick background. She is a former Fortune 100 division president and CEO with over 30 years of experience in the financial services industry. And she is also serves on various boards and has a very, very interesting and accomplished life. And more than that, we want to talk to her a little bit about what has brought her to this moment and sort of kind of this aha that we like to talk about here on the show that she is going to share with you to help maybe change your mindset just a little bit. So let's take a go with this, Maryann, and I want to ask a little bit about this whole Diva of Disaster kind of nickname that you have. I've shared a little bit about your past, but I think for our listeners here, what is it that has coined that term for you? And as a type I, a high achieving woman, give us a little bit about how you've gotten to this moment of being, shifting that mindset. So first, let's go into this Diva of Disaster label. And what does that mean? What's that all about?
Before I do that, Bonnie, I just want to thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. So you're correct. To some, I've earned the nickname Diva of Disaster, while others refer to me as the lady with 9 lives. So
Like
why
a
is
cat.
that the case? It's because I've had a front row seat to more than a few life-threatening events, and I'll give them to you in chronological order. In 1984, I was evacuated from my hotel due to a tsunami warning while vacationing in Hawaii. In 1985, I flew directly into the eye of Hurricane Gloria on my way to New York to visit my father, who was in intensive care after having a massive heart attack. In 1987, I skied down a mountain in Denver, Colorado, just moments before an avalanche struck. In 1993, I was working in the World Trade Center during the first bombing and had to guide my entire team down 34 flights of stairs to safety. The massive Northridge earthquake hit in 1994 while I was flying to Los Angeles for a client meeting. Needless to say, I never made it to that meeting, and I spent the night riding out aftershocks in an airport hotel before I could return home the next day. On 9/11, 2001, I was on a plane flying directly over the World Trade Center heading to Boston Logan Airport. Once we landed, the National Guard escorted me off the plane. With all the airports shut down, I spent several days in Boston before renting a car and driving home 16 hours. And then, of course, came the miracle on the Hudson in 2009.
Yeah, let's get into that a little bit because I think people are going to be most interested in that one. I know they ask a lot. So I really want to kind of savor this story a little bit. So give us a little bit of a intro into what that day was like.
So that was, a different adrenaline rush
Mm.
altogether.
Hmm.
So that day, honestly, I wasn't even supposed to be on a plane. I was originally going to a meeting, it got canceled, and then it rescheduled. So, the Miracle on the Hudson was January 15th, 2009. We boarded the plane, and about 3 minutes before takeoff, you heard these bangs, and then you kinda smelt something that smelt like sulfur, which was obviously the birds burning.
Oh,
Um
wow. This is before takeoff. Before takeoff.
no, this is I'm sorry,
Oh,
after
after takeoff.
takeoff. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
after takeoff. So we took off, and 4 minutes into flight, that's when you heard this bang, and then you kinda smelt this sulfur. And I always tell everybody that I'm a people person, so I knew that there was a pilot, an off-duty pilot sitting behind me, so I turned my head and I asked him if we would just make an emergency landing back in LaGuardia, and he had said yes. So and he was pretty calm, cool, and collective. So, honestly, Bonnie, I went back to reading my newspaper, just waiting for instructions.
Stop. What newspaper? Wall Street Journal, I assume. What were you reading?
Actually, believe it or not, no, it was USA Today. I
Okay,
love
that's
to
all right.
have pleasure reading, before I do my financial reading. And so then you just kind of waited for instructions. And then the instructions came from Captain Sully. He just got on the loudspeaker and said, "This is your captain speaking, brace for impact."
Oh my gosh. Don't even. This was like you've got your paper, and then the next moment, this. What does the pilot do next to you? What is he?
He was behind me, so I didn't really look. I was just at that point waiting for additional instructions, and the flight attendants in first class. I was seating in 5D, so I wasn't in first class, and I was one step behind the bulkhead, but I could see the first class flight attendants, and they were giving instructions: head down, stay down, head down, stay down.
Oh
So
gosh,
you kind
Maryann,
of
I
get in
can't
that
even. Yeah.
tuck position. You put your head down and you stay down, you get in your tuck position, and you just wait. And I remember glancing out the window right before we were about to land. And believe it or not, I was comforted because I saw water. So I assumed we were going to make it back to LaGuardia. And it wasn't until we crashed and the plane jerked a little bit and ultimately came to a stop. And then the flight attendants were providing different instructions. They said, Seat cushions and life jackets, leave everything else behind, hurry." And I don't know about you, but when you get on a plane, they usually give you those instructions. And so in my mind, I was thinking of those instructions, which went something like, "In the unlikely event of a water landing, please take your seat cushions and life jackets."
Right, right.
When I realized we were in water. So
In the
again,
middle of winter too, right? It
in the
was.
middle of winter, it's January
Yeah.
15th. So, given my other incidents that we've already talked about, I knew I wanted my purse, I wanted my license, I wanted my cell phone,
It's yeah, yeah. That's your lifeline to be able to speak someone.
so I grabbed that before I deplaned, and so then I went down in the little raft, and I'm sitting in my raft, and I'm looking all around, having no clue where I am, and now I see some people who've jumped in the water, some people are climbing on the wings. It kinda looks like the plane is gonna sink, but miraculously, it doesn't, and then there's just the scene gets crazy and hectic and chaotic. There's ferry boats are rushing towards us to try and help save us. Frogmen are jumping in the water, etc. And ultimately, we were driven to safety.
All right. So this kind of brings us to these, what we're really here to talk about today, and that's kind of this mindset shift. But I need to ask you, when someone is going through something like that, and you've had these brushes with death, and I assume perhaps one's more of a brush or a feel than something else, but for those of us who have never really gone through something that kind of devastating or really kind of takes your mind some time to catch up, what was something that you feel that you can share with us during that time that may have been an aha for you? Who are you thinking about? What are you thinking about? Are you thinking about anything in particular, anything that can help us make a connection for the value and the fragility of life?
Yes, definitely. So, and I found out afterwards that I was different from most of the other passengers because over the course of a year, there was an anniversary and 5-year anniversary. So you get to know some of the other passengers. But Again, because I said I was calm, cool, and collective, because I was following the pilot behind me lead, I was thinking when they said brace for impact, how I wanted to get home to see my family. And I was focused on my loved ones
Right.
because we were getting ready to, at that time, we were supposed to go skiing with family the next day. So I was thinking about that trip. I was thinking about my son who had just got accepted early decision to Duke University, which is my
Oh,
alma mater. I was thinking about my daughter who had just been selected to the US national team for soccer.
amazing. Amazing, by the way. I have a soccer player, so I understand the difficulty of that. That is an amazing achievement. You have great kids, it sounds
And
like.
then I was thinking about my husband
Yeah.
because we were getting ready to celebrate our 25th wedding anniversary. So most of what was going in my mind was just happy thoughts. I've experienced crises before. I just assumed I was going to make it home safely. And as I said, that's not the attitude that others had.
But at no point in that time were you thinking about the work you had to do or the new job you were just offered, which we're going to get into in a second, or that you hadn't worked more, right?
No, no. As they say, on your deathbed, you don't think of all the work you missed. You think of spending your time with your family and friends. So,
And
no.
that's really true.
I was not thinking of any of that. But again,
Yeah.
also, as I tell people, it really depends on where you sat on the plane and your prior experiences to getting on. So we've already discussed that I've had these crazy life altering events and I survived them all, right?
And
So
what's that about?
I think
What's
I'm the luckiest person on the planet, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my perspective going in, and I told you I sat close to the bulkhead, so I was in 5D. So all of the stuff that was happening was behind me. So the engines were on fire, that was behind me, I didn't see them. We almost crashed into the George Washington Bridge, that was behind me, I didn't see them. So that's why I say, depending upon where you sat, you're going to have a different experience because the people closer to the windows and closer to the back of the plane that could see the engines on fire, that could see we almost hit the George Washington Bridge. When we crashed and the water started rushing in and quickly was at their feet, they're going to have a very different experience than me because
Yeah.
I was close to the front and I was able to deplane pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I'm laughing because you know what? We're all friends here now. We all work remotely. My husband just came home, and I just heard the garage door go open and the door slam. And I'm trying not get annoyed, right? Because we know what's most important is is that we are present and think about the good things in life. But they still annoy you. So we just heard that what just recently happened too was a crash in India. God bless every one of those souls
Yes.
and someone that walks through that. I can only imagine like someone that walks out and says, "Oh my goodness, how did I survive?" Now, I mean, I think all of these various things teach us one thing, and that is that we are here for a very limited time, and so where we prioritize things can sometimes get a little skewed. And I know, similar to you, I'm a little type A, and so I want to ask, when you see these folks that are kind of working as much as you have in your life and kind of gone through what you did, which was really the confrontations with your own mortality. Now you have not had one, you've had what, six or seven?
Yeah.
What?
7.
Yeah. Has one changed more than the other? And is there at some point, perhaps it was that miracle in the Hudson that day, because you and I chatted a little bit and you did tell me that you went out there, you had just got a job, you're flying on back home, things are good. When was that pivotal moment that made you start to think about these life shifts?
You're correct. The pivotal moment for me was the miracle on the Hudson. That's when I truly confronted my own mortality. Because until that point, I had brushed off the series of the other events as just kind of funny, isolated, close calls, but never really thought of them at length. But that moment was different. It compelled me to reflect on how many times I had come face to face with danger. And it served as a wake up call. And I guess it was you could say it was the straw that broke the camel's back. So after that event, I made a deliberate choice to step back from full time work. I wanted to be more intentional about how I spent my time. And I wanted to prioritize my family and my friends while focusing on what truly mattered to me. So that shift inspired me to create a purposeful board portfolio where I could make a meaningful impact by driving company growth at a strategic level, also advocating for the advancement of women in leadership because I grew up in a male dominated business and I didn't see a lot of women who look like me. So I wanted to support the advancement of women in leadership in business and in sports because I'm a big sports enthusiast. And I also wanted to contribute to a broader social change. So today I do serve on several public company boards, mutual fund boards, nonprofit boards, and this is work that closely aligns with my values and my vision for lasting impact. So it was that miracle on the Hudson that really made me think like, okay, God's telling me something, and it isn't that I'm going to have another near death experience
Right.
and survive.
Right, right. And I think that's interesting. So, for we women that are listening, did you just say, "Okay, family, I want to give you some insights I now have, and this is what I'm doing." Was it something that is deliberate as that, or did it become this introspective few months that you had to think about and digest what just happened? I mean,
It was a little bit of both,
yeah.
Barnum. I mean, first of all, the way I would look at it is all those experiences together taught me one thing above all else, and that was that I never wanted to let fear interfere with living life to the fullest.
I love that. And I got to tell you, I've spoken with so many women, and the biggest thing they talk about is how fear has held them back. And those that have gone to a different level, whether it's being successful in work, being successful in life, being successful in whatever they consider to be success, has been pushing through that fear. So this makes me want to get to a little bit of these five shifts. And you and I have talked about them briefly. I've listened to you, and I think that they're very, very meaningful, and they really will have an impact on our listeners. So I want to talk about that. Maybe we can go into one by one, and we can chat
Sure.
about each one of them, because I want folks to walk away today learning something from you. I know that you get a lot of notoriety about the close brushes with death you've had, but you know what? I want to talk about what you've learned from that so that we can all live our lives a little differently.
Thank you. I appreciate that because, a lot of times I get called to speak and they only want me to talk about the miracle on the Hudson. And my response to that is, I'm more than just that event.
Oh no, I think you
A
have. I
lot
think
more
this is a
that I have to
reason.
give.
Oh my
So it's
goodness, I know
nice.
that you're a powerhouse. So I know that.
So it's nice to talk about other things. But yeah, so what I'd like to do is kind of just share with you the mindset shifts and the habits that to
Absolutely.
me they've enabled me to maintain long-term fulfillment. And they're deeply rooted in three things: purpose, intentionality, and balance. So, after experiencing all these real life crises, I had to release several long term held beliefs, especially regarding control, perfectionism, and the relentless pursuit of achievement. So, the five things that helped me survive, but more importantly, thrive: first and foremost, embrace purpose over perfection. So
Cool.
purpose over
Oh, good.
perfection. I've
Good.
come to realize that striving for perfection is a trap. It
I
leads to
know.
burnout. It leads to a constant feeling of I'm just not enough. It leads to dissatisfaction.
That's a great one.
So redirecting my energy towards purpose-driven life, for me, it's been transformative. And as I said, what that translated into for me was I didn't want to work full time, but I still wanted to be able to make a meaningful impact at a strategic level. And that's when I shifted to my second act, was building board portfolios.
Hmm.
But it's helped me learn that purpose is sustainable, perfection is unattainable. Purpose fuels passion, and that's what really lasts. And to me, that's far more enduring than perfection could ever be. So, first and foremost, purpose over perfection.
Okay, ladies, purpose over perfection. That's a good one. I think that's a hard one. It's a mindset shift for sure. Love it.
Second was prioritize relationships. At the end of the day, life is ultimately about people.
It
I
is.
consciously invested my time nurturing deeper relationships with families and friends and colleagues. And that shift from constantly doing to more intentionally being brought immense fulfillment. So, authentic connection fosters belonging, which in turn adds depth and meaning to life. So, I was more focused on being in the moment and really developing those relationships versus putting them off and thinking, oh, they know I love them,
Yeah.
they'll forgive me.
Yeah. So let's talk about example there, because I did a TEDx and it was all about that. Make sure you tell people the impact they've had on you now. Do not wait until like they are, in a vase of ashes on your desktop, right? And I think that's so important. And I've heard that from so many folks. Can you give me one or two examples of something that you may have done during that time to say, listen, I'm going to be very intentional about this with relationships?
Yeah. So after, I decided I wanted to pursue this board portfolio, I originally got calls from tons of nonprofits,
Okay.
who wanted me to do this, wanted to do that. And while I knew I wanted to do board work, I was like, you know what? I really want my nonprofits to have some type of a business focus. And that's when I decided I really wanted to focus on women and helping them achieve more, fulfill their destiny, whether that was in business or sports. So when board opportunities came my way in the nonprofit space, I turned a lot down if they didn't fit that criteria because I didn't want to spread myself too thin. So I purposely focused on where I thought I could add the most value and where I knew I would have the most fun. And then also another example would be when you have situations where, you get a phone call and it's from a friend and they want to meet you for lunch, and maybe you had 5 or 6 other things on your calendar. I will normally ask a friend if she's calling out of the blue when that happens, "Is everything okay?" And if the answer is no, or I really need your advice, I don't care what's on my calendar. I cancel it and I go and I be with that friend because at the end of the day, that's going to be more important than whatever I've had on my calendar. So, those are some conscious examples of where I don't want to be spread so thin that I'm not good to anybody.
Yeah. And I think so many of us do that because we have so many responsibilities. And there's something about, at least maybe it's changing in the generations, but I know from my generation, my mother's generation, we are just taught at a very young age to give, to care, to nurture, right? And sometimes we do that so much in other ways that we forget about doing some things that may be important to us that are going to really make a difference. So it's, work harder, do this, make sure you take care of that one. But sometimes really have a hard time stopping and saying, what's going to fill my bucket most? And these sorts of things that you're talking about are huge bucket fillers as well, right? All right.
Yes.
So that was two.
So 3 is intentional focus. And I kind of
Mm,
alluded to this when we were discussing 2. In a world filled with distractions and endless possibilities and opportunities, I've learned the power of saying no. And more importantly, I've learned that the word no can be a complete sentence. What do I mean by that?
yeah.
I don't have to justify why I choose not to do something to anyone. I just have to justify it to myself. So, setting clear, intentional goals allows me to focus my energy where it matters most to me. Being deliberate with my time and commitments has helped me stay aligned with my values and avoid burnout.
That's a hard one. I think we are also very much can be people
People
pleasers.
pleases.
Yeah. And what is that? Is that just because the way we're born again, that's what we're taught at a very young age, we're nurturing, or
I think it's because many of us are mothers and we nurture our
I
children.
know, right? I know. And to a fault.
Yes, to a fault. And that's how you get burnout. So I always tell everybody you can say no and it can be a complete sentence. Just stop. If
Just
they
no.
ask for something, say no and pause and just leave it there.
That's hard. You want to say no because I have to wash my socks or no, whatever, right? You feel like you have to always say why to justify it, but it takes a lot, I think, of
There's a
gumption
lot
and
of
yeah.
power in not justifying. Just say no.
Love it. Love it. Okay, number 4.
Number 4 is let go of the need for control.
Ooh, well, that's hard.
I once believed that I could control everything, my work, outcomes, even the unexpected. But life has shown me that control is obviously an illusion. And one of my favorite sayings nowadays is I plan, God laughs. Letting go has allowed me to embrace the journey, trust the process, remain open to new opportunities, and navigate challenges with greater grace and resilience. So you just have to be able to let go. And one of the tools that I give people to help them do that is it's called what I call the 10-10-10-10 rule. And that's where when you're in the middle of something or you're feeling like you have to control everything, ask yourself, is this going to matter in 10 seconds? Is this going to matter in 10 minutes? Is this going to matter in 10 hours? Is this going to matter in 10 days, 10 months? whatever the number is. And as you're moving along that continuum, you realize it's really no big deal. So just get over it and let it go.
Well, listen, like today, right? We had a little bit of an issue, kind of technology sometimes does wacky things. We couldn't get on camera, but you know what? We say, okay, I'm the same way as you. Let it go for now. What is that really going to? No, it's not. We'll figure it out. We're going to have a great conversation no matter what. Maybe the one Bonnie 10 years ago would have really struggled with that. Or, the same thing with you. It's got to be perfect. No, not anymore, right? Not anymore. It's all good. So I like that one, Maryann, a lot. And I think that type A folks like me, and I'm sure like you, that's a hard one at times. But it does, if you're able to step back and say, does it matter? Is someone going to think about this in 10 years? I don't think so. So you
Right.
got to let it go.
So
All
that's
right.
why I said the tool that you can use is that 10, 10,
10, 10,
10.
10. Love it. 10, 10, 10 rule.
And then the last one is commit to lifelong learning.
Oh, I love that one.
I now look at every day and I view every day as if it's a school day. I approach life with a mindset of continuous improvement, always seeking to grow personally and professionally. And this commitment to learning not only brings fulfillment, but it also ensures that I remain relevant,
Yep.
curious. I constantly evolve
Yes.
and I adapt in a way that can make me have the most significant impact. So, all of these five things I feel like have helped me build a life that's more aligned, fulfilling, and sustainable. And it's not about checking boxes, it's about living with clarity, connection, and purpose.
Yeah, I think, it's funny. I like to mentor younger people. Whenever we do speak, that is one of the biggest things I tell them. Never stop learning. So important. It will always help you evolve. It'll help you grow. It'll help you, stay relevant. And I think we all want to stay relevant at some point. If you're able to talk about things by learning something new or we're understanding kind of what the, certain things in life are going on right now that you can interject and have a conversation at some point, it just keeps the mind going and we all feel very connected. And I think life's purpose at the very end of the day is to have that connection.
Absolutely.
All right, so I want to kind of just go give me the 5 again because I'm going to use this probably through everything I do and some whenever I post quotes from
Sure.
Maryann Bruce, it's going to be the 5 for our folks again. Just give me the 5.
So, number one is embrace purpose over perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is prioritize relationships. Number three is intentional focus. Number four is let go of the need for control. And number five is commit to lifelong learning.
All right, fabulous. And I want to pivot just a second here because I think you've talked a lot about, the things that you may have looked back and said, okay, maybe I've learned this. Maybe I need to kind of shift this. And it's all based on kind of what you have learned in your life that's allowed you now to move forward. But if you have someone that's going through sort of and we all do this at some point, going through a crossroads in their career and their life, maybe personally, professionally, any bits of advice you can give them based on what you've learned from all of these near brushes and sort of kind of redirecting and making a more purpose-driven life?
Yes, absolutely. So, like you, throughout my career, I prioritize mentoring others. So, when there's a career crossroads, many of those women or men that I've mentored say to me, one of the most common questions they would ask is, how do you know when it's time to go?
Right.
When should I consider leaving my current role to explore new opportunities?
Yes.
So, to help guide these individuals, I developed a simple litmus test, and it consists of three questions. And I encourage everyone to ask themselves these questions, and that will help them determine the next best course of action. So,
Okay.
number one, has there been a leadership change that no longer supports you or your growth? Number two, has the company's strategy shifted in a way that misaligns or conflicts with your values, skills, or
Oh,
goals?
so true.
And number three, has the work itself stopped being fulfilling or enjoyable? On Monday morning, are you excited to get up to go to work or are you depressed and frustrated? If the answer to one or more of those questions is yes, it's probably time to refresh your resume, re engage your network, and look for a new opportunity. Life's too short. We spend way too much time at work, so we need to make sure that it's all about aligning your work with your purpose and recognizing when it's time to evolve.
you've hit on something very key. And it's something that took me a long time to realize because no one really talked about this. And I think you're hearing it more. Things need to align. Work, whatever it is you're doing, needs to align with your core values because when they start to become juxtaposed, there's a lot of turmoil and a lot of bad things that happen, right?
Absolutely. And then in regards to life crossroads and life's bigger challenges, I hold on to a simple truth. And that is tough times don't last, but
Hmm.
tough people do.
Oh, I love that.
Adversity is part of life. Bad things can happen to good people.
Yes, they can.
Embrace the reality that setbacks are inevitable. What really matters, what matters most, is how you respond. Resilience isn't about avoiding difficulty, it's about confronting it head on and learning from it and growing stronger. I like to say mistakes are marvelous. They're not failures, they're feedback. And they're some of life's
Hmm.
most valuable teachers, but only if you take the time to reflect on and learn from them. So whether in your life or your career, the key to stay the key is to stay, as you said, grounded to your core values. Be open to change. Trust that there's a path forward. It may not be clear, but it will eventually reveal itself.
I love that. I love that. And I have so enjoyed our conversation. I really think that you are bringing out those golden nuggets that sometimes it takes people too long to realize. And you're really giving them some valuable feedback from some real life. Hey, this is we are mortal people. You're getting as close to some of the things that none of us probably in our entire lives get close to. So I appreciate your rawness, your realness, and your ability to kind of put it out there and say, hey, listen, learn from me. So I want to thank you so much for sharing your story, Maryann, and your brush with disasters that have clearly impacted your journey to find true meaning. And that's all any of us wants to find. So friends, I hope Maryann Bruce's story and insights have inspired you to reflect on your own path and to remember that true strength comes from rising through life's toughest moments. If you want more info about Maryann, check out our show notes where you can find out more all about her. And if you found value in today's conversation, please take a moment to leave us a review and give us 5 stars on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Worth Knowing. If you'd like to learn more about our guest story or connect with them, you'll find their details in the show notes. Remember, the path to worth knowing is paved with courage and insight. Stay inspired, keep striving, and continue to make a difference. Then, you must make sure to share it with others. Until next time, keep chasing those aha moments, my friends. The ones that deliver results and motivate and teach the world. Worth Knowing is produced by Missing Link, a Latina-owned, strategy-driven, creatively fueled production co-op. From ideation to creation, they craft human connections through intelligent, engaging, and informative content.
The Agile Brand.